Life has a quiet way of shaping us. We rarely notice the exact moment we develop a new interest, or the day we lose one. We never realize when a small fear becomes hesitation, when repeated criticism becomes self-doubt, or when a few careless words slowly become the voice inside our own mind. The same is true for the good things. A kind teacher, a supportive friend, a patient parent, or one encouraging conversation can quietly become the reason someone believes in themselves for years. Most of what changes us doesn't happen in dramatic moments. It happens through countless small experiences, repeated over time. One by one, they quietly shape the person we become. And perhaps the strangest part is this: we almost never realize it's happening. Until one day, we look at ourselves and wonder, when did I become this person? The truth is, it didn't happen in a single day. It happened so quietly that even we failed to notice it. This is the story of a girl who slowly lost herself, and perhaps, by the end of her journey, you may discover a part of your own. It was just another ordinary afternoon. Children walked home from school, laughing with their friends, comparing their class test marks, and making plans for the next day. Ridhima walked home too, but unlike everyone else, she walked alone. When she reached home, she quietly placed her school bag near the door and sat at the dining table without saying a word. A few minutes later, her mother returned from work. As always, she smiled and asked, "How was school today?" "It was good," Ridhima replied. Her mother smiled. "Did you get your class test papers back today?" Ridhima nodded. Without saying anything, she slowly took a folded paper out of her bag and placed it on the table. Her mother unfolded it. For a few seconds, she simply stared at the marks. She looked at the paper once more. Then she looked at Ridhima. Her eyes weren't filled with anger. They were filled with confusion. "Ridhima, what happened?" Ridhima lowered her head. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to answer, but no words came out. After a long silence, she quietly picked up the paper, walked to her room, and gently closed the door behind her. Her mother remained seated at the table, still holding the test paper. This wasn't the Ridhima she knew. Not long ago, Ridhima was the girl who loved solving difficult math problems before anyone else. The girl who would eagerly raise her hand whenever a teacher asked a question. The girl whose report cards often made her mother smile after a long day at work. So, what had changed? The strange thing was, the answer had nothing to do with that class test. In fact, by the time those marks had begun to fall, something much more important had already been quietly slipping away. And no one, not even Ridhima herself, had realized it. Just 1 year earlier, Ridhima was a very different girl. She loved solving difficult math problems, looked forward to every singing practice, and never hesitated to raise her hand whenever a teacher asked a question. Her classmates knew she studied hard. Teachers trusted her. Many parents admired her confidence and often told their children, "Learn something from Ridhima." She wasn't perfect. She simply enjoyed learning. And after school, she would gather the neighborhood children and somehow turn an ordinary evening into hours of laughter and games. To everyone around her, Ridhima seemed like a child who had everything going well. No one, not even Ridhima herself, could have imagined how quietly that would begin to change. It didn't begin with one big incident. It began with little things. At family gatherings and school events, adults often noticed Ridhima. "Look how well behaved that girl is." One mother sighed while looking at her own daughter. "If only mine had even half her obedience." The adults meant it as praise, but to some of the children listening, it didn't feel like praise. It felt like comparison. Slowly, admiration turned into irritation. And that irritation began showing itself in small ways. If Ridhima answered correctly, someone rolled their eyes. If she sang well, someone made a sarcastic comment. One day, two girls looked at her neatly tied hair and laughed. "Look at her hair." There was nothing wrong with it. That was the point. They didn't really need a reason anymore. Ridhima laughed with them, but somewhere inside, something didn't feel right. She just didn't know what it was yet. Soon, it wasn't only the jokes. One day during history class, Ridhima had finished her work and quietly began solving a math problem. A classmate immediately pointed it out to the teacher. Another day, her name was written on the class board for talking, even though she had barely said anything. Small complaints like these became regular. At first, Ridhima defended herself. Then she stopped. Explaining herself every time became exhausting. So she became quieter. She raised her hand less. She stopped trying to be involved in everything. And without realizing why, Ridhima had begun learning a strange lesson. Sometimes, it felt easier not to be noticed at all. The change was so gradual, even Ridhima didn't notice it. She stopped volunteering for things she once enjoyed. When the school announced a math competition, she looked at the notice and walked past it. Singing practice no longer excited her either. Instead, she began spending more time alone, drawing quietly in her notebook. There was nothing wrong with drawing. She genuinely enjoyed it. But something was different. She wasn't simply discovering something new. She was slowly stepping away from the things that once made her feel alive. And whenever someone asked why, Ridhima had only one answer: "I just don't feel like it anymore." Ridhima's mother worked long hours, so most evenings, their conversations happened around the dining table. "How was school today?" "Good," Ridhima would say. Then she would talk about homework, an upcoming test, or something a teacher had said. She never mentioned the small comments, the complaints, or how differently she had begun feeling at school, not because she was hiding them. To Ridhima, none of those little moments seemed important enough to explain. But her grandmother had begun noticing something else. Ridhima no longer practiced singing in the evenings. She rarely spoke excitedly about school. And when her grandmother asked about the upcoming math competition, Ridhima simply shrugged. "I'm not participating this time." "Why?" Ridhima thought for a moment, then quietly said, "I don't know, Grandma. I just don't feel like it." Her grandmother looked at her carefully. For the first time, someone had noticed that Ridhima wasn't simply losing interest. Something inside her had slowly changed. The next evening, grandmother took Ridhima to the beach. They walked quietly along the shore until grandmother asked Ridhima if she knew why she no longer felt like doing the things she once loved. Ridhima shook her head. Grandmother looked toward the sea and said, "Nothing changed you all at once. It happened little by little. One comment made you uncomfortable. Another made you doubt yourself. Then came another, and another. You kept telling yourself they didn't matter, but somewhere inside, they did. Ridhima looked down and wondered if she had become this way because of them. Grandmother smiled gently. Not because of them alone. You are still young, Ridhima. Sometimes we don't understand what is affecting us while it is happening. That is completely normal. Then she pointed toward the waves. Look at the sea. One wave comes, then another. You cannot spend your whole life trying to stop every wave. People will criticize you, misunderstand you. Sometimes they may even dislike you for doing well. What matters is what you do after each wave reaches you. She took Ridhima's hand. Don't try to become your old self tomorrow. Just do something good for yourself every day. Sing for 10 minutes. Solve one problem. Draw something you love. Take one small step, then another. Ridhima looked at her grandmother and quietly wondered, what if it doesn't work? Grandmother smiled. You may not understand this today, but one day you will. Keep doing constructive things, bit by bit. Keep moving forward. Believe me, life has a way of putting things back into place. They continued walking. Another wave reached Ridhima's feet. This time, she didn't move away from it. We don't always notice what is shaping us. A few words, a repeated experience, a small fear can slowly change what we enjoy, how we behave, and even what we believe about ourselves. But the same is true in the other direction. One good choice, one small effort, one moment of courage, repeated often enough can change us too. So if you ever feel that you have lost a part of yourself, don't try to find it all at once. Start small. Because just as small moments can slowly change you, small choices can slowly bring you back to who you want to be.